Come on! 1% calm my ass! This thing is not calm! Two of them again? Nobody wants two of these assholes.
Originally released October 18th, 1981 in the arcades. Today we are covering Kicks. It was developed by Randy and Sandy Pfeiffer of Taito of America and published by Taito. Ports in its heyday were actually quite few, only coming out to the Atari 5200 and the Atari 8-bit computer lines. But between 1989 and 1991, a whole slew of them would be released for various systems, including the Amiga and DOS, the Apple II, the Apple II GS, the Commodore 64, the Game Boy, the NES, the Atari Lynx, and the FM7 in Japan. Today we're covering the Amiga version, which was released in August of 1989 and appears to have been the first of these upgraded late 80s versions. It also appears to have been an American exclusive for the Amiga. Now, it will play in PAL mode, so it's not an NTSC exclusive, but it was designed in NTSC mode for the Amiga, and as far as I can tell, 0 magazines in Europe ever made note of this. I believe this is an American exclusive. Most of these ports coming out in the late 80s and early 90s were developed by Alien Technology Group, including this Amiga version, and their resume is fairly small, limited only to TV sports football for the Commodore 64 and a wrestling game called Takedown, which came out for the Commodore 64 and DOS. But they handled most of these computer ports for Kicks. And while they developed these computer versions, Taito themselves will be the ones publishing them for all of the computer systems. Let's start things off with a couple of advertisements from the original arcade release. Get your kicks from Taito, pronounced Kicks. And that was an advertising gimmick which everybody bought hook, line, and sinker. Because you look at it and you would think Quicks, but no, they made a note. Pronounce it Kicks, which everybody made sure to do multiple times, and any time this game was mentioned, including from my sister, when I told her I'm playing Quicks, she made sure to correct me and say it was pronounced Kicks. Brilliant advertising gimmick right there. And another advertisement showing off the actual arcade cabinet. Get your kicks from Taito and thrill to high earnings too. Here's the box for the Amiga, requiring a joystick and 512K RAM, shifting focus as the computer virus game. Your mind is your only weapon. What is Kicks? Pronounced Kicks. Where did it come from? Where does it go when you turn off your computer? Can you catch a Kicks before it destroys you? Kicks isn't like any other game you've ever seen or played. It simulates a fictitious computer virus with a whirling multicolor helix that lives inside the darkness of your computer, never resting. The object of the game is to neutralize Kicks by building a vaccine that contains the virus. You must trap the Kicks within this carefully constructed space, but think and act fast, because the Kicks and its mutant offspring are trying to destroy you. Kicks knows you're out there, and it will find you. It's only a matter of time. Quote, Kicks is to video games what chess was to kings, a classic mind game, unquote, attributed to nobody, and indeed nobody ever said that. Not to disparage the game, it does what all great arcade games do best. It is fast, it's easy to get into, it's addictive, and it is extraordinarily difficult to continue very far. And while there is certainly strategy, the longer you wait to contemplate your situation, in general, the worse off you are going to be, because they are trying to suck in your quarters. It's an arcade game. It is not a turn-based thinking game like chess. The gameplay is fairly self-explanatory. We have 1 to 2 helix viruses in the middle of the screen. They're trying to get us. We are trying to draw our way around them and to fill up enough of the screen that we can proceed to the next level. The Kicks behave extraordinarily erratically. Now, are they going to go off in a corner of the screen and do their own thing, or are they going to head directly towards you? Well, the answer is all, and sometimes a quarter of a second away from each other. From the manual, the Kix is an evil and terrifying computer virus. Nobody knows where it comes from. Your mission? Immunize the system against this insidious infection, but the Kix is intelligent. It learns from its mistakes. It also breeds lethal subviruses that can quickly spread and infect your system. The main subvirus is the Sparx. Each level starts with 2 of them, and via a timer at the top of the screen, when that red line goes all the way to the middle, another Sparx is added up to 6. Now, whereas the Kix can only hurt you when you're actually drawing on the screen, the Sparx can get you while you're on the border. So, unlike what the game says, there's no time really to think. You have to react quickly. There is a trick you can perform which will cause these Sparx to get themselves entangled in a loop at the top of the screen where they spawn, which is the extra screen that I'm showing you now. But really, by the time you get up there in order to perform these actions, there's still going to be 2 Sparx that are coming at you, and I really don't have all that much of a problem dealing with them myself. They're fine, at least compared to the nasty, nasty Kix. So personally, I didn't really use the Sparx trap method. We have some hints and tips. Kix has no time limit. Don't try and rush through a level. Build walls to guide the Kix into a position where you can trap it. Try and split a pair of Kix as often as you can. Your score will multiply. And keep moving. The Sparx are always looking for you. But you just said there's no time limit. Don't try and rush through a level. Second guessing the Kix isn't recommended. But you know, don't rush through the level or anything. So yeah, the attempt to push this as the thinking man's puzzle game doesn't really work with me. It's a arcade coin muncher. Strategy will certainly get you a little further, but nobody's escaping this one alive. From Antics Amiga Plus, December of 1989. Artistry kills a computer virus. Receiving 4 out of 5 pluses. Arcade Classic comes to the Amiga with a new viral twist. Astoundingly simple in concept, Kix is a true classic among arcade games. The new scenario labels the swirling Kix a computer virus. You must neutralize this virus by rapidly drawing boxes on screen to trap the fast-moving Kix while avoiding the deadly touch of the fuse's Sparx and sprites. You'll need fast thinking, good reflexes, and a tough, responsive joystick to make it very far. You end up creating elaborate patterns as you play, a welcome artistic touch in a highly analytic, strategy-oriented game, unique among arcade games, and rightfully considered a classic. Kix is a welcome arrival for the Amiga. From Carolyn Cushman, costing $34.95. She talks about the artistic touches that are present, mainly via the patterns. And while I wouldn't call them necessarily representative of what the Amiga could do, like they could have been a lot better, they are nevertheless pleasing. There's 2 or 3 colors in each fill, and while there could have been a more elaborate gradient on the Amiga, this is arguably the best overall version. If you want to compare it with the original arcade with its solid blue and red fills, obviously we have something which surpasses the original arcade, as well as it should, coming out 8 years later. Going to the DOS version right from the start, we can see more polish to the Amiga, which actually features a 640 by 400 interlaced display for that one introduction screen. The Amiga has the more natural skin tones for this title screen, and when we get into the actual game, we can also see the colors are a little more rich on the Amiga. The Kix itself on DOS, it doesn't change colors. It's just, the blue line is always going to be the blue line, the green line is always going to be the green line, etc. On the Amiga, it has a bit of a copper effect. It goes through various different colors. And that thing that can so often ruin a game completely on DOS is the PC speaker sound effects. Annoying is putting it mildly. The fills aren't quite as pretty in DOS, and even the gameplay. It seems I have a knack for discovering pretty bad bugs in the DOS versions of games I cover the very first time I play them. And what did I get here? I found that little Kix going to the corner of the screen and he wouldn't move. 99% fill rate. Unbelievable. Never got that kind of a bug on the Amiga. Though I will give the high score screen credit on DOS, with many characters that can be typed on the actual keyboard. Now, as I'm sure you've been hearing some of the expletives in the background as I had played this game live, perhaps we should talk about the difficulty this game provides us. It is accurate to the arcade original? Perhaps it should not be. It really doesn't even give you a brief honeymoon, even on the first couple levels. They're all hard, and especially once you get to level 4 onward. A lot of the time I died right here on level 5. I can't get past level 5 most of the time. When you pay $35 for a video game, which was actually pretty reasonable at that time, Arkanoid was going for $50, but still, you pay that much money, and maybe you should be able to get past level 5. I'm a big believer in altering the difficulty of arcade games, which were designed to get quarters from you when you've got my quarters. I've given you the quarters. Give me a game. And now, despite the frustration, I couldn't stop playing it. I spent nights on this game, usually not getting past level 5. I put just as much time into this game as I would an RPG. That's how much I wanted to get better. And perhaps if I had been able to get to level 20 or something and just naturally wanted to stop, I wouldn't have put in that much time because it would have been easy enough. So, when I say perhaps they should have taken down the difficulty, maybe I am wrong. From Compute's Amiga Resource, December of 1989, 500s discovered inside arcade game machines. Next time you visit your local arcade, take along a crowbar and pry one of the Magic Johnson basketball cabinets apart. Inside, you'll see the motherboard from an off-the-shelf Amiga 500. In other Amiga news, this could be a big Christmas for the Amiga, with Commodore pumping an estimated 15 to 20 million into television and magazine advertisements, and Amiga 500 hitting the shelves in high-volume retail stores such as Sears and Roebuck, Montgomery Ward, and service merchandise sales, so the Amiga may just go through the roof. Kicks receiving 3 out of 5 in the Amiga checkmark there. Arcade fans rejoice. Kicks, an arcade classic, is being reincarnated on the Amiga. It combines fast action, ear-catching sound in an appealing package that you'll enjoy again and again. Despite its seemingly simple action pattern, Kicks is a challenging game to play. Rest assured, you won't master it overnight. Does strategy help? You can try things like boxing in the Kicks virus, but be aware that Kicks learns from its mistakes and will use that knowledge against you, and that makes for taut nerves. As the working screen shrinks, pulse rates increase, blood pressure rises, Kicks moves frantically while you sidestep and dodge. Maybe there's more to drawing boxes than you thought. SH. So since I couldn't get all that far into the game, what I ended up doing was creating my own personal goals for this playthrough. And the main goal was to fill up the entire high score screen with my initials. And thankfully the game actually saves that, which unfortunately far too many computer games don't actually do that. And as far as I'm concerned, even console games, put in the stupid battery. It's not all that expensive. Let me save these things. That's all these types of arcade games have to offer you. It's the high score. So it's the most important thing to feeling completed. Offer it, save it, no matter the platform. To some gaming memories. This was a favorite of my sister's. I didn't actually play it all that much on the Amiga, but, watched her play and, knew the game enough to, when we had the Game Boy, I wanted it on the Game Boy. Or maybe she wanted it. I'm not sure which one of us wanted it for the Game Boy, but I definitely remember playing it on the Game Boy quite often. And when I was coming to the Amiga version, having remembered the Game Boy version and sucking so badly here, my memories, were firing off because, I remember being pretty good at Kicks. But that's because I was playing the Game Boy version, which actually did decrease the difficulty. Beyond that, it actually offers some extras in the form of cutscenes. Every once in a while, you get a fireworks display for making it so far, and you get to see Mario in some very questionable ethnic kind of outfits. I'm sure I'd like to have that one back. I feel like it would be a disservice not to point people to the Game Boy version because, it's gonna be easier for them, and with those cutscenes, you might actually end up enjoying the Game Boy version a little more. That being said, I ended up enjoying the Amiga version more, largely because of the challenge, as well as, the very pretty graphical fills and stuff. And while you were hearing me quite frustrated in the background, that's me. I'm a kind of a masochist there. I enjoy the pain that these games offer. From Computer Gaming World, October of 1989. What Do You Do for Kicks? By Russell Sipe, covering the Amiga version. Kicks, pronounced Kicks, is a classic mind game living in an action game world. As such, it can be difficult to describe. While it is definitely a classic style game that demands the development of a strategy or strategies, it can just as easily be described as an action game that rewards fast thinking and fast reflexes. It is definitely addictive. I do love and hate it so. The fiction supporting the game is weak, but don't hold that against Taito. The fiction in any case is that the Kicks is a computer virus bouncing around inside your computer. If Kick sounds familiar to you, it might be that you remember it when it was a coin-op hit on many college campuses back in the early 1980s. Back in those days, college students poured quarter after quarter into machines playing and developing strategies to beat each other. Many strategies developed over time. The three most famous are the MIT, Harvard, and Stanford strategies. The goal in the MIT strategy was to build a fork-like structure that had many slots, which hopefully the Kicks would wander into. When the Kicks got far enough down into the slot, the player could seal it off, scoring big bonus points by isolating the Kicks in a very small space. In the Harvard strategy, the goal was to build a tree-like structure that divided the playfield into a number of trapping quadrants. And in the Stanford strategy, the goal is to trap the Kicks in an ever-decreasing spiral. Kicks is a fascinating game and is highly recommended to those who are one with the universe, to those who are prepared to pursue purposeful strategy in the face of intense action. I do love and hate it so.
This is such a ridiculously fucking frustrating game.
And indeed, I do love and hate it so. Truer words never spoken. So Computer Gaming World spent a bit of time talking about the strategic elements of the game, but I'm going to reiterate. Don't really agree with them that it's just as much strategy as it is action. It is far more action. It is meant for you to die. Getting a strategy is only going to get you past the initial levels. You are destined to die eventually. I was quite interested to read about the different school strategies, the MIT, the Harvard, and the Stanford. I did not read any of this prior to shooting all of this footage, and yet I look at my footage and I naturally developed aspects of all of these. Yeah, at times I did the spiral, at times I did more of a tree, and other times I put forks in it. I did the fork one less than all the rest, but I definitely did the spiral and the Harvard tree quite a bit, and I would start with a spiral usually, and then tree off, and then maybe put a couple forks in there. Now, you're seeing it right here. I started with the spiral, and then I forked it off, and that's how I'm finishing it. I was impressed with myself that I naturally developed aspects of all three of those elite school strategies. And since Computer Gaming World was reviewing the Amiga version, this is what makes me say that it was probably the first of these late 80s 16-bit versions, because they would have easily gone with DOS if that was what was in front of them. They go with the first release unless it was simultaneous, in which case then they might have went with the prettiest one. From Amiga World, December of 1989, where there was an ad for the game. When Kicks Fever strikes, there is no cure like the mind-blowing arcade original. Kicks is the computer virus that lives deep inside your computer, attacking without warning. Construct a trap in any one of the billions of configurations possible to immobilize Kicks. But watch out for Sparx, trademark, and sprites. Trademark, give me a break. And other deadly energy forms. In this electrical world of high-tech infections, mental dexterity and superior strategy are basic to survival. No one is immune. Get your Kicks before Kicks gets you. Here they give mention to an Atari screen, which at this point in time would lead me to believe the Atari ST ST, but there is no Atari ST version of this game, and actually all of those screens, like, if anything, those are the DOS screens. Those are not Amiga or Commodore 64 screens. But DOS isn't even mentioned in the ad. Roger Gould, writing this review, kicks induces the same white-knuckled, nerve-jangling frenzy in me that Blastfest games produce in my restaurant pals. I never shoot anything. However, I draw like a demon. You only have 4 lives, so be careful. If the kicks touches your marker or line, you get zapped. Sparks travel in ever-increasing numbers around the perimeter of the screen. Should you stop or hesitate, the fuse races down the line towards the marker. Turn left into your box too many times, and the fuse will chase you down the capital spiral death trap you created. That's your last life, bucko. Have you considered an easier game? The pace gets faster and nastier on subsequent levels. 2 kicks bounce around for starters. Close them into separate sections, and your subsequent points are doubled. Level 5 brings sprites. Deadly snowflakes that float with the kicks. Capture 1 in a box, and you get 500 points. All in all, the game is an accurate and exciting reproduction of the arcade original, complete with the rock score. Once you give it a try, you'll find that it's tough to kicks the habit. Where's the journalistic integrity? It's one thing when the company, through their advertisements, are making you roll your eyes with the trademarks. That's pretty awful. But it's so much worse when the reviewer full-heartedly takes the company's buzzwords and uses them throughout the entire review. Spiral Death Trap. Each word capitalized. The fuse capitalized. Sparx. In Computer Gaming World earlier, made sure to put in there pronounced kicks. Wow. Hook, line, and sinker, I said earlier. They sure bought it. Level 7 happens to have the honor of adding a new mechanic that is not mentioned in the manual or anything. And that is when you hear this weird sound that you'll hear coming up shortly, the Sparx will start.
What was that?
Yeah, right
I
there.
like that.
At this point, the Sparx will start following you while you're
my God, this
drawing,
thing is going so
whereas
fucking
before they
fast.
would go right past you. That was your main defense against them, is to start drawing. Well, here, now they're going to start coming after you. I didn't even realize this while I was playing. I only realized it when I was watching the footage. You can see he started on that line right there, and he's coming at me. I think I died quite a few times on these later levels, not understanding that aspect. So again, as arcade games often do, they're making sure you're not going to make it out of this one alive. Right there, he followed me. Game over. From May of '89, Commodore Magazine. This was a bit of a puff piece for Taito, featuring Alan Feitzer of Taito of America. By the time this article is printed, the Amiga versions of Operation Wolf, Bubble Bobble, Renegade, and Reston should be ready, as well as the Taito classic, Kicks. I expect Taito software to achieve great success in the home software market this year. Their attitude is positive and, more importantly, their games are fun to play. From Feitzer, our company started out in the arcades, and we will always dedicate ourselves to being a leader in that business. That will never change. What we are doing is introducing games that have been developed for the home market only. We've got a good reputation at stake. As we've come to the market here, we've tried to emphasize quality. That's a big part of our operation. I also collected some footage of the NES version, show you a bit of the 8-bit quality. This was actually made, with the Amiga version and the others, the later version, so it has, the 16-bit, kind of patterns and stuff. That's what it's going for. And unlike the Gameboy version, which made the difficulty less for the kiddies, this one's more towards the arcade. It's more like the Amiga version. It's a pain in the butt. It's done well, but it sure makes you wonder why so many people were clamoring for an NES when they could have had an Amiga. I was blessed to have both. And this is also one of the most frustrating name entries I've ever seen. This took me 2 minutes to completely type in my name. It goes so incredibly slow. for Amazing Computing, August of 1988, which was a year before it was actually released, but here it makes the gaming news. Taito, the Japanese company that kicked off the video game boom with the classic Space Invaders, has set up shop in Canada and is readying a volley of game titles across a wide variety of systems. Amiga titles set for a fall release include Gladiator, Operation Wolf, plus arcade titles Kix, Renegade, and Skyshark. Discovery Software is preparing its next wave of Amiga releases. Master of the Hypercube sounds like a supercharged version of the coin-op classic Kix, with players dodging a drifting vector graphic Mesomorph. I found the bits on Discovery rather interesting. If you watch my reviews for Sword of Sodan and Arkanoid, you will see a picture being painted of Discovery and their shadiness. They mentioned an upcoming release called Master of the Hypercube and said it sounded like a supercharged version of Kix. Now, this game, Master of the Hypercube, as far as I can tell, was never actually released. But as I said in Sword of Soda, I really get the feeling that Discovery and all of their original games were seeking actual licenses from various arcade manufacturers because they had been so successful with Arkanoid. But the way they treated Arkanoid, and they had their logo, the Discovery logo, all super big, and using that copper effect, I think they really alienated Taito. So what they probably did was make a version of Kix, send it to Taito. Taito said, no, we're going to do it ourselves. And then they wanted just to release the game anyway, call it something else. Of course, Taito didn't know anything about computers anyway. Alien Technology Group handled this port. Taito never did any of these themselves, but they published these ones, whereas Arkanoid was published and developed by Discovery. They just licensed it through Taito. Here, Taito was making the publishing money. Clearly, though, I think Taito must have liked that copper effect logo in Arkanoid because it's showing up here. The actual review from Amazing Computing will come in October of 1989, which is what made me say earlier that it was released in August of 89. That's what Moby said, August of 89. But August, September, October, it makes sense considering magazine publishing deadlines and how long it takes them to publish things. Commodore's educator, CBM, uses video to reach the classroom. Kix, the arcade game, makes it to the Amiga in true form. Finally this month is a new version of an arcade classic. Taito has finally brought Kix, pronounced Kix, to Amiga screens everywhere. Kix is different than nearly every other computer game, and it is a challenge to describe. For such a simple game, it is still surprisingly fun. The graphics are relatively simple by modern standards, though the fill patterns are a little more detailed. The joystick works fine as a control, and the sounds used flow with gameplay. While not the world's best game, Kix would make a valuable addition to any arcade collection, and is a fairly inexpensive way to spend some playing time. And those are probably the sentiments which best sum it up for me. Doubting it's going to make too many people's bests of all times list, but it is a valuable addition to an arcade collection on the Amiga. It's a very well done port. It betters the original. Those fill patterns are nice to look at. It's probably the best version of this game. The Amiga one-upping the competition yet again. You will love and hate it. So, it's a challenge, it's frustrating, but you can't stop playing it. It's what that era of arcade games were all about. And it's fully recommended for me, especially since I think a lot of Amiga people have no idea this game ever existed. And at last we fulfill our personal goal for winning the game, which was filling up every last spot of the high score table with our initials. And there we go. I won. Hopefully you enjoyed this bit of a shorter video from me. Trust me, it takes just as long to make. But if you like this, I hope you'll check out my reviews for Arkanoid, Marble Madness, Winter Games, and Power Drift. See you all later. Goodbye.